Um, as mentioned, we're going to be talking about how to take control with calendars and task management in Clio, as well as with workflows. My name is Joseph Given. I am a customer enablement trainer at Clio, as well as a former support agent. And I've worked with hundreds of different firms to help set up their accounts, maximize their workflows, and a lot of that has to do with tasks and calendar management. On top of all that, this is a very important topic to me because I know I will absolutely overbook myself if I don't have my calendar with me at all times. So yeah, definitely very important.
And hi everyone, my name is Umaima and I like to go by Mema, which is pronounced like Emma with an M in front. And I'm a sales engineer here at Clio. So what that means is when firms are evaluating their technical needs or trying to figure out how to adapt their workflows in the pre-sale process, they bring me in. Like Joseph, I was previously a customer enablement trainer where I personally trained over 200 firms and helped them adopt Clio. And I'm only human. And I quickly have learned that in order for me to stay on top of my to-dos, I need to have a really solid system in place.
And now, before we get into sort of the meat and bones of it, we're going to talk about sort of the problem we're addressing, which is the cost of chaos. How disorganization negatively impacts legal professionals and their firms. We're then going to break into the power of being proactive, what it means to really work proactively and get out of that chaotic damage control mentality.
We're then going to show you how to rise above the chaos with 14 features in Clio. And because we're big proponents of examples, we're going to show you a story and put it to practice before jumping into a Q&A when we have time.
Now, Mema, question for you. What exactly are the costs of chaos?
Well, Joseph, the costs of chaos are, there are a number of abstract and business costs. In terms of the abstract, when attorneys don't know what to expect, it's hard for them to focus because part of their energy is always on that feeling of, oh no, did I forget something? And when that inevitably does happen, it can impact their reputation negatively because they're no longer seen as reliable. On the business side of things, missing things simply means more work. These attorneys then have to make up for those deadlines that they've missed or the clients that they've driven away by being non-responsive. And unfortunately, disorganization can affect an entire firm productivity because one person can derail an entire firm. And at the end of the day, attorneys have an ethical responsibility to their clients to be diligent about the work that they do, especially when it comes to meeting deadlines. And some of them have lost their license because they've neglected that responsibility. So there are some very real and severe costs, both to the person and their business.
And these costs manifest themselves into what we call the cycle of chaos. It starts out well, maybe there's a plan, a goal, and a plan to reach that goal, but then suddenly an unexpected interruption happens. And it's not something we can just ignore, it's something we have to address right now because it looks like the beginning of a work fire.
So in order to fight that work fire, you have to realign, painstakingly reorder that entire to-do list. But in reality, you have to end up throwing out the to-do list because the amount of time it takes really isn't worth it, especially when you have a fire on your hands. And then those due dates get delayed. Due dates become overdue dates, and then they like to live in the land that I call when I have time. It's imaginary, I live in it too sometimes, and unfortunately, it doesn't come often. So that's a problem, right? And the solution to that problem is a better plan.
Not necessarily. So let's go through a scenario where someone had a good plan that still managed to fall apart at the cold hands of chaos. This is Rachel. She had planned to go on a beautiful vacation with her family to the Caribbean. She'd been planning the thing for months, had all of her ducks in a row. And 2 days before the vacation, she realizes, oh, I had met a very important lead in an event the previous week. Totally forgot about it. And I can't let this one slide because this is going to be a big deal for her firm, a lot of repeat business, high value. So Rachel really needs to sort of react appropriately there.
Now, Rachel's in scrambling mode. She needs to realign, reconnect with that client, and that initial plan that she had is put on the back burner. And in between the late nights at the office, running back-to-back from meetings, she's really flying by the seat of her pants because her to-do list isn't accurate and it's no longer helpful. By the end of the week, Rachel has to go on vacation, and she's trying to convey to her staff about what to do to make sure that this client is retained, but she doesn't feel confident because she doesn't have the tools to make that successful, let alone have them read her scraggly writing on her notes.
So what Rachel does is she caves. At the end of the week, she buys a very expensive data plan, and she cancels the wine tour she was going to go on with her husband. When she gets to the hotel room, she hunkers down at that hotel desk that you probably have like water bottles on right now. And then she spends the entire vacation at that desk. She spent a lot of money to be there. Later on, she's looking through all the family photos, sees all the photos with her kids and her husband, and she's like, where was I? So when she comes back, she knows that she has to make a change and she has to take better control over her life and her work.
Now, before I show you how to do that, we want to consider two types of work here, reactive work and proactive work. Reactive work was largely what Rachel was experiencing. It's very responsive. It often takes the form of damage control or putting out unexpected fires. And it can be very stressful to deal with because often in those situations, you're operating under a time pressure or it feels like that it's already gotten out of hand.
What Rachel really would have benefited from was taking a more proactive approach to work. Now, proactive work is all about thinking ahead, carving out time in the day to really sort of build out tasks, plan out what those tasks are going to look like, and streamline processes so you can do it faster in the future and save yourself that time. And because you're thinking ahead, you're able to sort of put out those fires before they even get lit. So with that, you are also able to better grow your practice because a lot of the big initiatives and projects that are involved in growing a practice involve a lot of thoughtful planning and proactive work. So with that, I want you to take maybe about 20 seconds to think about how much time you spend in the typical day working on reactive versus proactive work, and think about how much time you would like to spend. The 20 seconds is starting now.
So while you're thinking about that, put it into the terms of how many times do you think you get interrupted in a day? How many times on average in a week? If you don't have to have a number, but I'm guessing by the laughs, it's a little higher than you would want it to be.
If you're anything like me, it's a lot.
It is a lot. Think about what are some of those work items that live in the land of when I have time, that are often staying there. How would your firm look different if you had the ability to work on those? Okay, I think that was roughly 20 seconds. And something that we want to emphasize here is that we don't think it's possible to get rid of reactive work altogether.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I know. I've tried extensively. It turns out you can't actually control everything. What we do want to emphasize, though, is that we think that the key to minimizing reactive work is to think proactively. And that's what we want to show you next. We're going to talk about how to be proactive in Clio Grow, which is our software that focuses on lead intake. We'll take questions at the end. And then we're going to talk about what that looks like in Clio Manage, which focuses on the practice management piece.
So now first focusing on Clio Grow, let's talk a little bit about intake. So I'm sure there's a lot you have to do in a day. There's research, casework, meetings, deadlines. On top of that, you're running and growing a business. And what I've heard from a lot of lawyers is that they simply don't feel like they have the time and mental energy left in the day to really focus on intake and focus on that growing piece. Now this is where Clio Grow comes in. Clio Grow is a complete client engagement platform that is focused on intake. And with Clio Grow, you can really sort of plan ahead and keep track of what's next in the intake process, so you can always stay one step ahead. And you can always make sure you know what's going on so you're able to provide your clients and your leads with the responsive service that will win them over.
And this is something that we want to emphasize here, because if you remember from Jack's keynote, the client, 64% of clients said that the reason that they didn't hire a lawyer is because they simply weren't responded to. And to us, that means that those clients weren't able to get their help that they needed. And that's something that we're hoping to change.
Absolutely. And at the heart of planning in Clio Grow is the workflow. Now, the workflow is a virtual checklist of to-do items that you need to complete before you can retain a specific lead. And they consist of 5 different types of items. So you have your tasks, scheduled emails, appointments, as well as your intake forms and your documents. Now, by setting up workflows, you're able to proactively plan out your matters so you can really keep better track going forward. Now, workflows are really powerful in and of themselves, but you can take them to the next level by using workflow templates. So with a workflow template, you can turn your routine workflows into reusable templates that are standardized that you can assign to your matters as needed. And what this really does is it's essential to streamlining because you're able to save time and energy that you would normally spend creating your tasks, creating your events, and sort of reinventing the wheel for every new case. With this, you can sort of design a really great workflow once and assign it as needed. So that will really help you to reduce the amount of time it takes to hire them on and get back more time so you can really focus on the stuff you really went to school for. On top of that, you can apply this same kind of principle to communications with email campaigns. Email campaigns are a reusable series of emails that you can send out to your leads on a predetermined schedule. And what this really does is it helps you to sort of save time and save the mental effort of planning your follow-ups so that Clio Grow will do the work for you. You would basically design a series of emails once, determine when they would go out, and then instead of having to figure that out every time, you simply do a couple clicks, and then Clio Grow takes care of the rest. Now, we've seen email campaigns being used in a number of ways, including to re-engage with old, stale leads who may have sort of fallen out of contact, or to ask for a referral from a case once it's complete. And this is really a great way to make it a lot easier to communicate with your clients and get back to them a lot quicker. Now, I want to focus on one very specific aspect of the workflow, booking an appointment. Now, historically, booking an appointment's been kind of a painful process. It involves a lot of back and forth communication, and it quickly gets really complicated if someone decides to cancel or doesn't show up.
Yeah, and on average, it takes 8 back and forth emails to book an appointment, and that's just straight up annoying.
Yeah, that's not great. Now, as you may have seen in Jack's keynote, we've been working to sort of resolve this. So we're going to be releasing a new feature called the Clio Scheduler. With the Clio Scheduler, you can send out an email to your leads with a link to the scheduler. They can click on that link, and they will be taken to a simple, easy-to-use interface, like the one shown up here, where they can choose a date on your calendar. Then they can choose a time. This is all based on your Clio Manage availability. And then they can book a time. Now, this isn't just for like your existing leads. This can also be for new leads. So you can have a general link that someone can click on to book with you for the first time. And then what they would do is they would get the same screen, but then they would also have this screen where they can enter their information. Now, once that's all done, they will get this confirmation screen. They will receive an email, so will you. It'll be saved into your Clio Manage calendar and your Clio Grow calendar. So that takes the effort out of booking and really makes it a lot simpler for everyone involved. Now, with workflows, workflow templates, email campaigns, as well as the scheduler, you're really able to save a lot of the time you'd normally spend on those more tedious tasks, and there's more tedious workflows, and you're able to get back to your clients a lot quicker and keep better track of them. Now, once you have a workflow scheduled and you have an appointment and all that, there are 2 big ways in Clio Grow that you can track those. You have the timeline and the agenda. With the timeline, it's a matter source of truth in Clio Grow. So it's a place in the matter page where you can keep track of everything that's already been done in the matter, as well as anything that needs to be done going forward. So you get a really nice sort of past and future view of that matter. And what this allows you to do is not only keep better track, but also be a little bit better at collaboration. Because even if you maybe miss a detail or someone misses a detail, that information is very sort of visible. So someone else at the firm can see that and can see, okay, this is what's next. This is what needs to be done. So it's much harder for anything to really fall through the cracks. Now, the next feature is the agenda. The timeline is really great for seeing a single matter, but the agenda is where you get to see sort of all your upcoming to-do items in one place across all your matters. So it's a personalized bird's eye view of all your current, upcoming, and past due items. And really seeing all these items in the same place gives you a much better idea of everything that you need to do going forward in order to grow your client base and ultimately your business. So you can use the agenda to plan out your time and identify maybe if you're falling behind, hopefully not, so you can quickly correct your course and get back on track. Now, we're big proponents of using examples, so I'm gonna get Rachel to kick off a rewrite of Rachel's, or I called you Rachel. I'm gonna get Mema to rewrite Rachel's vacation, but this time using Clio.
Okay, so we're gonna start with giving some context on this page here. So before, Rachel was trying to pass off notes to her staff, but instead she can use set this up in Clio Grow instead. And because she was proactive, she built out that workflow for them. She can feel confident in what they're able to do because it's all laid out. So she built out that intake checklist here. She's gonna complete the first item, make sure that its email is sent to the right person, and that template is added. And that's literally all she has to do before she leaves. And so we're gonna now join Rachel's colleague, Chandler, and see what his work looks like now, see where he picks up. So the first thing that Chandler is gonna do is he's gonna go to the matter itself and start completing the items. He's gonna check off that email is complete, and you can see that progress bar changing. And the next thing he's gonna do is prepare that form. And it's so easy, everything is laid out. It's just a few clicks from there. You can build specific templates for your different matter types. Preparing that form, you can see that you can email that to the client, making it convenient for them to give you that information. And this pre-built email template, which still allows you to customize and give that personalized experience. Now, because it's important to follow up with your clients and be really persistent about that, we also allow you to set reminders so that you don't have to spend the time staying on top of them. Clio Grow will do it for you. So we're gonna check that off and presume that the client completed that and move to the next step, which is creating an appointment. What we're gonna see here is Chandler's going to send a scheduling link, and it's really simple. He just chooses which calendar it's going to go on and then fills out some of that information. Once you hit schedule, you give that email out, we're gonna send it, and it's all good to go. So Chandler's gonna check that last item off here, and then we're gonna show you what the client is going to see. So like we saw on those previous slides, they're going to open up, and they're going to open up that link, and it's going to populate with Chandler's availability from his managed calendar. All they have to do is select a time that works for them, schedule that appointment, and all those loose ends are tied up now. It's on their calendar, it's on your calendar, you have the email confirmation, and they also have the reminders built in as well. So now some time's going to pass, and we're gonna go back to Chandler again in Clio Grow. We're gonna see this agenda view laying out all the items that he has to do. And he's gonna take us to the pipeline next, just to give us an overview of all of the matters. Okay, so now we can see on this end what that looks like when an appointment is booked. So from here, he's going to change the status and inform everyone else in the firm that this consult has been scheduled. This matter has been updated. Check off some of the last remaining items. We're just going to move forward in time here. He's going to review what's happened on the timeline just to make sure that they're doing the due diligence, see if there's any important notes that anyone has added. We can see it all laid out plainly, and you can see the body information as well. So if you want to dig deeper, you have the ability to do that. And all that's next to do is move them to Clio Manage because we've retained them. That process is very simple as well. We can see that a lot of the information is populated for us, and that's all you have to do. Now they're a client. Okay, so now before we go over how that case progresses, we just want to take a step back and talk about practice management. It essentially requires you to do two things: practice the law so you can earn money, and then manage your business as efficiently as possible so you can minimize those costs. And one of the best ways to do that is to be really diligent about the systems and processes that you have in place. And this is where our flagship product, Clio Manage, comes in. It really allows you to perform those daily functions of your practice in one centralized and accessible place. Though we have a lot of features that can really help you take control, we just want to focus on calendars and tasks today. We're going to start in tasks. So the idea of tasks isn't unique to manage. I'm sure that we've all tried to use some sort of system. Just by a quick raise of hands, how many of us have tried like an agenda or a sticky notes? Okay, so one thing that differentiates Clio's tasks is that the tasks are dynamic. Instead of having to scratch out your to-do list and start from scratch, you're able to make updates and have them reflected across the platform, especially because you're able to make tasks dependent on each other. The other key differentiator is that you're able to see everything within context. I like to think of tasks as like individual puzzle pieces that make up your specific goal. And when you're working towards a goal, it's really helpful to see that picture on the puzzle box. And with Clio Manage, you're able to look at your tasks and see your goals for a specific matter or your personal day-to-day. You have a map, and the map gives you a way to complete that. Okay. With our advanced tasks, you're able to optimize that. It allows you to add time estimates, add categories, and then review reports based off of that information. So if you are hoping to get a better insight into like making some business decisions about your firm, like for example, if you're spending a lot of time on documents and drafting documents, you can potentially use that information to justify investing in a tool. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is task lists. Task lists to Clio Manage are like workflow templates to Clio Grow. It's essentially like working off of a paint by numbers for every single matter. You set up the framework once, and then you apply it over and over again.
That sounds easy, and I don't even paint.
You don't. You're really bad at it. I've seen his work.
Horrible.
So just as a quick challenge to you folks in the room, I'm going to task you to schedule 20 minutes in your calendar this week or the next to create a task list for a specific type of matter. If you're really keen, schedule 2 hours in your calendar every week or so that you can build out your workflow templates in Clio Grow and your task list in Clio Manage. The reason why I'm asking you to do that is because your calendar should be the single source of truth of where you are at all times. It's a principle we follow very diligently at Clio, and the reason why is because in order to be proactive, you need to know what to expect, and having your calendar be really maintained properly is make sure that you're not double booking yourself. And because your calendar is a reflection of how you want to spend your time, you're able to get out of that land of when I have time. You're able to carve it into your calendar so that you're making that time. Now, when it comes to maintaining your calendar, it's really easy to do in Clio Manage. In one page, you're able to create an event, add your firm attendees, add reminders, and maybe add it to that matter, add it to your personal calendar or the firm calendar, ensuring that everyone is up to date on deadlines or important office dates. Now, with our feature court rules, it really takes that to the next level. It allows you to schedule multiple events based off of your court jurisdiction. So say I am an attorney under the New York Supreme Court Bronx jurisdiction, and I want to schedule dates for a trial. Before court rules, I'd have to pull out my calendar and pull out a calculator, and I'd probably make a mistake. But with court rules, I can easily schedule events weeks and even months in advance. And for those of you who are based in the US, I strongly recommend upgrading to this elite feature because the amount of money you spend is pennies compared to the amount of ease that you get from having a system like this. Okay, so once your calendar is properly maintained, you really want to focus on making it accessible, especially to other members of your firm. And one of the best ways to do that is to share your calendar. This way, people aren't wandering around the office wondering where people are or double booking other people, and they're able to anticipate what your capacity is. Now, if you're like me, I'm very private sometimes, and I want to make sure that people are able to see only what I want them to. And so in Clio Manage, we have 3 levels of permissions, so you can really feel comfortable about what they have access to. You also want to make your calendar accessible to yourself. And this is where our syncs come in. If you're using a program like Office 365 and Outlook or Google Calendar, you can sync your calendars between Clio and that other system. Now, what that means is that those calendars are going to mirror each other. Events that are in Clio are going to be reflected in that other system and vice versa, making sure that those updates are communicated there. And now, before we get into our next feature, just a quick question. How many people in this room have their phones with them? Okay, you're all in trouble. This is a no phone room. I'm just kidding. The reason why I'm asking is because that's a reality that we face every single day now. Our phones are consistently with us. And that's why we put a lot of work into our mobile apps so that you can leverage that resource and take your Office with you. It really allows you to work on the go, which a lot of lawyers are. And next time you're at maybe the San Diego airport and there's a little bit of downtime, you don't need to pull out your laptop and go onto Wi-Fi. The other thing that I really value about our mobile app is that it can give you peace of mind. Sometimes our brain naturally travels to work and we get that anxiety feeling and we just want to quickly check in on something, feel comforted, and then move away. And the mobile app makes it really easy to just quickly confirm something and then go back to spending time with our families or going on vacation. So I'm going to let Joseph take it from here so that he can tell us how Rachel's vacation went from there.
Absolutely. Now, after last time, Chandler had exported the matter to Clio Manage and is now going to start working on it. For a little context, before her vacation, Rachel had set up a task list specifically for this type of case so that Chandler could go in and assign that task list. He's also going to create some events based on the trial date, so he's going to use the court rules feature. So what Chandler does is he goes into the matter. He just uses the search feature, finds the contact, and then clicks on the matter. And then he clicks to edit the matter. This is how he can add the task list. So he scrolls to task automation, and then he chooses from the little drop down there, chooses the eviction task list, saves the matter, and now all those tasks that are in the task list have been created, and he can view them by going to the Tasks subtab. Now from here, if he wants to edit one of the tasks, like let's say the contact has to sort of delay by a few weeks because they're on vacation, then he can do that. He can just change the date to the 30th, and then he can save the task, and now it's updated. From there, now if he wants to create a bunch of calendar events based on the court, he can click the calendar subtab, click the drop-down menu, choose court rule, and then he can give the court rule a name for his reference. So we'll call it eviction hearing. And then he can verify that the jurisdiction's correct and can enter the trigger. The trigger would be the trial. That's the date everything's going to be sort of based off of. And then he can choose the date, which is going to be the date of the trial. From there, once he's selected the date, then he can click Next. He can verify that all the events are correct. And then he can enter in Rachel's name there and get her in the calendar as well. So she'll be a firm attendee, and he can set up reminders to go out 2 days before. So both him and Rachel would get reminded. Now, Chandler is going to continue working on the case, but now flashing forward to Rachel. Rachel's at the airport. She had a really great vacation, didn't think about work at all. But now at the airport, she just wants to check in, see what her next week is going to look like. So she goes into the new mobile app, scrolls through the calendar to see sort of what's next, and she remembers, oh, I had that very important lead. So she's going to go to the matter. She's going to go to the calendar section of that matter and just check what's coming up in the week so that she can get a good idea of everything she needs to do. She's also going to check the tasks. So quick view, so she sees, oh, Chandler's done a few of the things in the list. There's a few that I need to do. So now she can really put her phone away knowing exactly what's sort of coming up in her schedule so that she can better keep track of everything. Now, in summary, thank you for joining us. In this session today, we've spoken about tasks and calendar management in Clio, as well as workflows. And we hope you've gotten a lot of good ideas about how you can sort of organize your practice using these features. Now, we are short on time in terms of a Q&A. However, feel free to come to us right after this session. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer that. And we're both going to be at the Smart Bar
Which is
later
in
on.
Grand Hall B over there, where all the exhibitions are. It's just all the way at the end.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us. Hope you enjoy the conference.